All right, good evening. So, I really want to do this one. It's my last weekend before my last weekend as an unemployed person. But also because I've been seeing a lot of disrespect and just really weird things that I don't agree with a lot of these films and actors and versions of the character. I'm trying to do this quickly because I don't want to upload to YouTube, but I do want to get my opinion out there as someone who has admired the character essentially his whole life. Um, there's like a family joke that I was given a Spider-Man cake when I want to say 4 years old, 3 years old, and I didn't want to eat it because I said, "Yo no quiero comer Peter Parker." It's a character that I've been associated with for a long time, and I feel like my opinion weighs a bit more. Of course, you are free to have your own opinion. I just want to come out there as someone who's a big fan. Um, so these are what my general rankings are going to be. And I'm only going to do the live action. I'm not going to cover Miles Morales' movies because I have never finished the first one, but also because I've been told the first one is just so much better and it's actually better homage to the character of Spider Man. And the second one isn't as much. I'm not the biggest fan. It's a good movie, but I'm not like, holy shit, it's amazing. All right, so going to start easily. The easiest spot in this list is the last spot. Amazing Spider-Man 2. I can go on and on about this movie. It is probably my most despised film of all time. I watched it. It's the first Spider-Man movie I went to a theater to watch on its release. No, in general though. And while I was in theaters, and I still despised it as a kid when I was, I believe, 13. I believe it came out in 2014. And yeah, it never rocked with me. I have a lot of nitpicks. I can go on and on. I could probably make a video on this film alone of reasons why I don't like it. But the main reason I don't like it, and the one I will mention, is the story direction. I'm going to cover it more when I go through 2001. But Electro just, it's probably the worst written villain. It's just a guy who's somewhat crazy slash unstable and just becomes a bad guy because he thinks Spider-Man is taking away his spotlight. Like, I hate that. And they were also setting up Green Goblin the whole film just for him to show up in the last minute and just get knocked out right after. Um, but yeah, I can go on and on. I just, for time purposes, I'm going to move on. I also just want to mention Gwen Stacy's death. It's hard to do. It really is, and I kind of applaud them for trying it. It is probably the most important comics line of all time, Gwen Stacy's death. And before Spider Gwen and Ghost Spider, essentially, she was kind of known to be the girlfriend that dies. And I implore them for trying, but I just don't think it hit as well. And it does get redeemed a bit in No Way Home, but we're gonna go through that after. Next spot is very difficult. This one was between this movie, Spider-Man 3, and Amazing Spider-Man 1. Now, which one do I like more? If I care about likeness, I'm going here. I'll be honest. But I'm not doing that. I'm talking about generally better. Spider-Man 3 is a big mess. Spider-Man 1 is not as much, but it's better, and that's why I'm going to do the order like this. That's what my order is. But Spider-Man 3 is a big mess. And it kind of makes me upset that people these days love this film. But I remember when I watched it on my little VHS tape screen or in my summer camp when we watched it, I despised it. And the reason I really didn't like it was because it just doesn't hit. It's the direction's not there. And with hindsight, we know Sam Raimi didn't want Venom in the movie, and you could kind of tell it. He wanted Sandman, and the movie kind of felt like it was gonna focus on Sandman, and then it doesn't. It doesn't. It goes focus on Peter Parker being edgy and emo, and Eddie Brock being an asshole, and then begging for his job, and then him asking Jesus to kill someone, which is crazy. Um, I just don't think the film is great. Now it does have fun moments. It's funny. It's a funny film. That doesn't make it good though. Now it is definitely iconic. You definitely see the most Spider-Man memes from any live action come from Spider-Man 3. But you could also kind of look at it, it was like, oh, that's all this movie's kind of known for. And honestly, kind of is. That's the one good thing that came out of this film. The series died because of this movie. Don't forget, they essentially gave up on Spider-Man 4 and rebooted the series because of how the movie was kind of critiqued. But it was also because Sam Raimi had issues with the directions because he was losing control. I just watched 2001 this past week, and I do think the movie on its own is better. Now, do I prefer to Spider-Man 3? No. Is it a better film? Drastically, yes. It has better direction, for sure. Better storytelling. I do hate, the reason that I do still consider it not the best is I hate Peter Parker's origin in this movie. Him becoming Peter Parker just to kill Uncle Ben's killer instead of instantly recognizing that with great power comes great responsibility. Not a big fan. I also really hate the fact that they set up his parents and they kind of hint that his dad created spiders. I think that's a sin. I think it's a sin. And Spider-Man 2, the reason I say Spider-Man 2 makes this movie worse is because it reveals that his dad's the one who pretty much like made the spiders for his Peter or anyone in the Parker line essentially. And that it was kind of made for him to be Spider-Man. I despise that. The idea of Spider-Man is could have happened to anyone could have gotten their powers, that person could have done anything. Peter Parker's heart and character is what makes Spider-Man a hero. So that's my biggest issue with the series. Now the movie alone, because that's not really revealed until after, it just doesn't hit as hard. The suit is horrendous. It's probably the worst looking. It is the worst looking suit, which is funny because Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2 probably has the best looking one. Gwen's okay. I think she's probably one of the shining stars of the TASM series, but that's kind of like, it's kind of just, it's kind of like a above average actor slash actress that's in the series. There's not really many things to shine about TASM in my opinion, other than maybe Andrew Garfield himself, which he has issues too. But the film isn't a mess where it gets one clear villain and it sticks to that villain, and it kind of shows how Peter Parker's life and social life, romantic love life, whatever, mixes with him being Spider-Man, and that's to me that's something that deserves admiration because that is what Peter Parker's story is about. Let's be honest here. So it does capture the essence of Spider-Man and Peter Parker a lot better than Spider-Man 3 does, for sure. This spot I heavily debated between, I'm just looking here, this one and this one. Now, if you ask me when Far From Home first came out, where does it go? It probably goes up here. But it is really difficult to decide. I like both of these films. Every film from now on is considered to me a good film. So I would probably say 1 out of 10 for this one, 4 out of 10, 5. Everything here is at least a 7, in my opinion. In fact, I would probably give both of these movies a 7. Now, we're going to do this, okay, at the time, which one's probably better when they first came out? It's also kind of hard because everyone loved Far From Home when it first came out, and everyone was like, this movie is life-changing. It's the first one, right? But it's also kind of difficult to, like, with hindsight. It makes it even more difficult with hindsight because the Far From Home gained a lot of distaste as time went by. And it's because people started realizing, I think it was because of No Way Home. People were like, oh, we want street-level Spider-Man back. We want friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, not just Avengers Spider-Man, MCU Spider-Man going everywhere. And I feel like it's kind of like, a good analogy, I guess, to put is Call of Duty. People were tired of the futuristic CODs, so it was Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare 3, back to back to back. And after Infinite Warfare was like, everyone's done. But it's as if everyone started hating Black Ops 3 because of Infinite Warfare. That's kind of what Far From Home is. The funny thing is, no one hates Black Ops 3. I think it's the best Call of Duty of all time. But what if they did? That's what Far From Home is. But let's be honest, if I'm talking about plot-wise, story-wise, Far From Home easily is above Spider-Man 1. But Spider-Man 1 has one big wild card, and it's the Green Goblin, who is known to be Spider-Man's biggest villain, and he's arguably the best performance out of all of these films, is Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. And I think just having that villain, who is in a way like in 2001, he has a part to play in Peter's personal life, but it's a lot bigger. Like, he's his best friend's dad. He's established like that to be in the beginning. We see him turn into a villain, and we see how that messes Peter's life, and at the end as well, because he kind of has literally blood on his hands. He killed it in his head. He let it. It was him who led to the death of his best friend's father. I think that dynamic completely destroys Far From Home, which is still a really good film. As good as Mysterio is, I still think he's great. It doesn't come close to the dynamic between Green Goblin and Spider-Man 1. Next up, I think this is probably the easiest one. I think Far From Home is fourth. No Way Home is fourth. and I'm going to argue the top three, which I honestly could argue any order, but I'm going to talk about No Way Home first. Why is No Way Home not considered a top three movie? Again, I think it's kind of the fatigue. First of all, we want just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man fighting street criminals. I think that's the best way to tell his story, and watch him grow into becoming like an Avenger would probably be the best thing. But he's kind of already in that, without really just having one street level film. That has a part to play, I won't say, but I also feel like the movie's heavily carried by two things. Again, Willem Dafoe's number one. Um, he's the best villain in Spider-Man, and he's the best actor in this film. And number two, it's the cameos. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Charlie Cox. Even like Charlie Cox's scene is so good for how short it is, but the film does suffer from it. It feels like it's built for those "oh my god, no way" moments, or "oh my god, I can't believe it, I'm crying." People cried at these movies, bro. Like at this movie, just because they saw Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield came back. Now, after that, when you rewatch it, knowing that's gonna happen, it doesn't hit as hard. It really doesn't. And then this is probably one of the only movies I went to watch to a theater twice. And the first time was my like first time seeing it. I was like, oh, cool, cool. And the second time, I was not really interested. Now, granted, a lot of things happened at that day. Like I lost my car keys and glasses in the theater. But other than that, like I was like, I don't really mind it. I already watched it, right? It's a good film. Obviously, it's probably a 7.5 or an 8 to these two sevens, but it's just not a masterpiece. And 1, 2, and 3, I do believe, are all masterpieces. I believe all of these are at least a 9. Um, I wouldn't give any of these a 10. I think the only movie that's a 10 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier, as you guys already know, most of you that know me. Um, these movies are at least a 9 and 9.5. Now, my personal heart, I do want to put Homecoming as number one. But like I said, this is more of a general thing. What do I think is the general ranking of these films? I'm going to put Homecoming number 3. I love it. I love the dynamic. I think Peter Parker's best dynamic is when he's still in high school and he's discovering how to balance his life. This movie probably does it the best. First of all, Tom Holland looks like a high schooler. He could play as a high schooler, especially at this time. I think this movie came out in 2016. This is 10 years ago, which is crazy. The other films when he's in high school, he does not look like he's a high schooler. But Tom Holland's Spider-Man in high school, having a crush, pretty much sacrificing all his potential love life, not only to stop villains, but to stop her dad, because he knows it's the right thing to do. And the biggest critique of this movie is he relies on Stark Tech. Now, he has Stark Tech throughout the film, but when it mattered the most, when he had to stop the Vulture, he was without Stark Tech. That's the end of the film. And the best scene of this whole series, and probably all of Spider-Man, is when he has to lift the debris off himself. Of course, it's an homage to the comics, but the reason it's so good is because you can tell he's panicking and he's genuinely afraid for his life when he's stuck under that debris. And he's still a kid. He's a high schooler. It's realistic and it's a very real feeling for him to have. But then he like musters up the courage, the willpower, and determination to be able to lift it off him and be able to stop the Vulture. Again, without Stark Tech, with his original suit and his own web shooters that he created. So I despise that Stark Tech argument. I really do. So it's these three films I probably watch all the time, a million times. But Homecoming is probably my most watched one. Granted, I didn't watch it in theaters. It was during my little movie hiatus because I hated Suicide Squad and I refused to watch any movie after that until Infinity War. But I watched constantly. I watched in Disney Plus, and then I always watched the YouTube clips. I love them. I don't know what it is, but I just admire it a lot. Now, just to be short, because we're short on time, I'm gonna speed through this. Now, I love the parallels between these two movies. Whatever Spider-Man 2's premise is, no Brand New Day takes it up to another level. Spider-Man's social and love life is a mess in Spider-Man 1. It's because he can't balance it. Spider-Man in Brand New Day, it's a mess because he sacrificed his memory being in these people, so he sacrificed his connection to them. So it's a bigger extent, right? Um, the physical stuff, the stress levels in Spider-Man 2 caused him to lose his powers, and in Brand New Day it caused him to gain new powers that are a bit too much for him at first. And the last one is in both movies, the villain is redeemed. In Spider-Man 2, he redeems the villain, and the villain sacrifices himself. In Brand New Day, he redeems Jean Grey. Jean Grey saves him. Like that's how much she started to care for him. She saves him after he gets shot by letting him breathe in the hospital. And not only that, he redeems her to the point where she's going to become one of the leading heroes in the MCU through X-Men. So a lot of the premises that were set by Spider-Man 2 were just set to 100 in Brand New Day. Now, it's really hard to say because the problem is Brand New Day is obviously very fresh. I want to compare it to Far From Home because at the time Far From Home was considered probably the best Spider-Man movie when it first released by a lot of people. Like the first week it release, at least up to Spider-Man 2, a lot of people said. Now part of me is thinking this is easily the best film, but it just came out. Spider-Man 2 has always been the best film since it came out, and I haven't watched it in maybe 15 to 18 years, and I still remember how this movie made me feel as a kid, as a preteen. I do think because it's survived the test of time, I have to give it number one. But given a year, because the thing is, Far From Home and No Way Home, same exact premise. Both of them started getting a bit of distaste as time passed. Spider-Man 2 is probably the only Spider-Man movie whose opinion hasn't lowered as time passed. You know, the Stark Tech argument thing for Homecoming wasn't really a thing when it first released. I think, for now, just because of how recent Brand New Day is, I can't give it number one. But what I will say is, I have never went to a movie in the theater 3 times. This is the only movie I have gone to the theater to watch 3 times, while it was in theaters, of course. And arguably, on top of that, like I mentioned for No Way Home, I went for a second time. Wasn't really engaged the second time. I had work, and I was like, you know what? I watched the film, whatever. I was engaged every single time I went to watch Brand New Day. And to me, that makes me feel, in my heart, I'd probably put it number 2, while I have Homecoming number 1 or number 2. I probably interchange them, depends on the day. But generally speaking, and it gives me confidence to say that, given enough time, I do think we will have it in this order. I really do. Given probably by the end of the year, I think it will probably be cemented to be in this order. But since it's only been it hasn't even been a month, I am going to give Spider-Man 2 number 1 spot. Another thing to mention, like I already mentioned, the premise is set by Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is a king. This is the analogy I kind of want to use. Spider-Man 2 is the king. Brand New Day is the more successful heir. But would that successful heir have even existed if the king didn't exist? You could argue that. You can argue both ways, yes and no. But I do think it wouldn't have. So for now, this is the order. I already mentioned, I do believe we will swap 1 and 2 eventually. And who knows what other films come out in the future. But yeah. My opinion is worth more than yours.